Hey! Hey! Oh! All right. Hey, everybody. Yeah, it's been a while. I've been busy and I'm still busy. Hey, Elise, uh, Labette, Original Intellect, Beverly. How you doing? Lady Virgo, you better believe it. Hey, Jaleel Lattimore. Okay, I think I got it right. Everybody out in the chat. Oh, Copper Engine. Hey, love. Oh, Janelle. I miss y'all so much. D. Allen Warren. Oh, Copper Aborigines. Oh, my goodness. Sammy, Damon, everybody in the chat, everybody watching. Smash the like button. I've been out of mission. I've been listening to other channels, but I've been very busy and I'm still busy. Hey, Underground, Lady Libra. Hey, y'all coming on in here. Oh, hey. So, it's been a minute. It's been a while. I'm dealing with the forces, but it is what it is. How are you guys? So I have a lot of slides today, and I really want to get into reclassification is a hell of a drug. It is. It truly is. And with these slides, they will be in the December or January. No, January. Look at me. I've been gone for a minute that I can't even remember the days of the week. So these particular slides will be in the January 2026 newspaper, along with the sources. So when you do go on our website, you'll be able to download all 50, I think it's 58 or 59 slides that will be consolidated into our newspaper for the first month of January 2026. And I figured reclassification would be like the best first of the year newspaper to have in our newspaper. So first things first, let me clarify a lot of things. There are a lot of people in this world that don't like my style and how I deal with my community, and they don't understand. They don't understand us. They never did, and they never tried to either. We, as me being raised in the inner city hood as a child, growing up into an adult, having the same mindset and having had the opportunity to transition my sense of thought as I became an adult, whereas some of us didn't in our inner city hoods. Not everybody, because see, the biggest myth that's ever told about our communities across the 50 states is that we just don't have morals. Just because you live in a hood doesn't mean your morals leave, because I was raised with Southern morals, although my entire family is from the South. But my grandmother and great grandmothers, when they migrated here from being burned off their damn farms in South Carolina, they brought those Southern morals in my community. And I'm not going to watch my potty mouth to justify other people, because if you don't like how I speak and deal and interact with my community, then I think you should unsubscribe, leave, and never come back, because I have to communicate and interact with the people in my community on what we're accustomed to. We're not all from the same communities. I am not from the rich hoopy-doopy suburbs, and I'm not going to act like it. I can act like it if I'm getting paid for it. But today, this is my channel. It goes with my newspaper. It's my First Amendment right. You don't like it? Get the hell off my page, because I didn't ask anybody to subscribe to my channel that has a dislike to it. I'm just going to put that out there. I'm not going to change my panel style, because then I lose connection with the people in my community. And because I grew up in my community and I understand the mindsets of the people in my community, I'll never forget how I felt back then. So I have to respond to my people how we're accustomed to interacting with each other. And I'm not going to change it. My potty mouth is always going to be a potty mouth. This is my YouTube channel. If I say shit, ass, bitch, whatever, it's my channel. I'm also a YouTube partner and I enjoy this. Okay. And it's connected with my newspaper. Okay. This is my channel and this is my part-time job. And I'm going to stay in it because I love you all. And I'm going to bring you with the tools that I've learned all my life. I'm going to share the research I found. And I'm not going to stop because this is stuff that I love to do. I'll be damned if somebody with 2 legs and a dick stopped me from exercising my rights and vibing with my community. And see, the most interesting thing about our community, y'all, all races of people are in our community. All races moved into time to be racist or anything of that nature because we all grew up with all shades of people in our hoods because that's where they come when they get off the boat or they illegally come in here. Okay. So without being further that, going any further into anything further, I'm going to continue to vibe with me because I never want to lose my personal connection with you. I look, when I step out of the plantation, when I say plantation, I mean work for the day. It's about my life and my personal life. This is my personal space and I invited you in it. And I always want to connect with my people. I will never forget the things I suffered and the things that I went through in my community along with you. Probably, in this case, I went through them with your mother and fathers. Okay. So I never want to lose that energy and that connection and love with my community. I will not. Now, let me tell you something. If I speak to my community, okay, we're talking about my hoods across the 50 states. If I speak to my community like I professionally speak at work, that the kind of talk and communication that I'm paid to do, my community won't even connect with me. The first thing they're gonna do is tell me, yeah, who the hell is that? Barack Obama's niece? She don't know how to talk to people in her hood. Oh, yes, the fuck I do. That's why I'm talking like this now. That's why I'm talking like this now to the people in my community that understand me and I want to continue to be connected with. I fucking don't want to lose you as my audience. We have 489 people in here. I know it's been a while. I usually have more, but I've been gone for a while. So eventually, the people will start coming back. All my haters watch my channel. Those are my best fucking customers, just so you know that. All my haters and the people that despise me, they'll be the first motherfucker sitting in the chat waiting, what is she going to say out her mouth today? Oh, you're going to get it today. Because I'm not changing my tone. I'm not changing my voice. I'm vibing with my community, and you're welcome to listen in. If you don't like it, just keep your zip locked, your mouth zipped up, and just, hey, this is Sister Bethy in the private life. Now, would I get on a stage and represent myself like this in Congress? Hell fucking no. But they're all probably watching my channel, drinking their wine, probably saying, damn, finally she's fucking back. All the people in Congress, all the legislators all over across the states, they're probably looking, saying, where is that girl? Now we ain't got nothing to fucking laugh at. Okay, I'm back, you guys. All you professional people, you legislators, you mayors, all you lawyers, every type of profession across the world, just like you watch Candace. Candace is a lot more nicer with her mouth. We're both from the North. Candace is from Stamford, Connecticut. I am from Bridgeport, okay? So the further you go north, the worse we get. So Candace, the Wicked Witch of the North, but I'm the double wicked witch of the North, okay? Because I'm getting closer to Massachusetts. When you're in Bridgeport, okay, I'm close to New York. Candace is a lot nicer to me. She's more like my little niece with a little gorgeous self. Candace Owens, yes. So they came and attacked me and her, but I don't give a fuck. I'm still gonna be me, and it is what it is. I am not in my professional role, and this is why I have the audience that I have, because of the way I act. So people who are old-fashioned and have lived in the woods all their life, not close to society, and don't understand brown-skinned people, here is the greatest place to learn on how we act with each other. And I call it fun time, especially Thanksgiving. Look, you think I'm crazy on my panel? Come to one of our family's Thanksgiving dinners. Oh my goodness. You're going to hear drunk Uncle Bucky, drunk Uncle Becky, drunk Iris, drunk Mildred, drunk everybody, okay? And they all have potty mouth, drunk ass Indians. Hello. So with that being said, I did my little 15 minutes. So I have a lot of slides. I'm just going to get right into it. How did we disappear? What the hell happened? So I'm going to go through these slides. If I don't finish all of them today, I will probably finish them, over the weekend. I'm trying to incorporate into my life how long I want to stay live. I don't want to stay live more than an hour and a half. Okay, because I do work full time, you guys. I do, and I get off of work at 2:30. Any time between 2:30 and 3, and then I clock into my YouTube partner part-time job, like most people do. So I'm trying to figure out a schedule to work for myself. Would it be, will I make it an hour each day, like my beautiful niece Candace does? I just call her my niece because she's just so beautiful. Will I do it for an hour like she does and get everything done? Or would I make it an hour and a half? But I know one thing. If you want to come on my panel now, you got to pay $5 to come up here. If you want 5 minutes to dialogue on my panel and speak your mind, it's going to cost $5 for every 5 minutes. Okay? So if you want 10 minutes to dialogue on my channel, nobody's allowed to interrupt you. You would be the only one speaking. It'll be just me and you on the panel. Nobody will be able to interrupt you. And I will mute all mics. And if I have to put people in the back until you finish getting your points off, that'll be cool too. Because I may have instances where I have like 4 people up here and somebody wants to speak straight for 5 minutes without anybody interrupting. Now, y'all know how we brown folks do. When somebody's trying to talk, we automatically cut them off in the middle of what they're saying. So to prevent that, what I would do, if you're paying $5 to come up and speak your piece, you got to cash at me $5, and you'll be able to come up and speak your piece, and nobody will be able to interrupt you, but I'll be able to rebut whatever you say or say what you're going to say, because I'm not going to interrupt you. I know how to agree to disagree, and I know how to mute my mic, even if I don't like what you're saying or don't believe. I'm not going to cut you off. I want you to say what you're going to say from the beginning to the end without being interrupted. Bottom line. So I'm going to start doing that today, as a matter of fact, and you should know what my Cash App is. It shouldn't be no issue. Why isn't it even up? It should be up. That's weird. Edit name headline. I guess I'll put it up. This is if you want $5 to come, 5 minutes. Let me see. $ for Cash App. Damn, y'all, I should have been did this. Cash App. Okay, $ Sister Bethy. That's all it is. Very easy. So if you want 5 minutes to speak your piece or whatever, if you want to speak about a particular slide that I show, you got 5 minutes. You get 5 minutes, but you got to pay the $5. You got to cash at me $5 on my show. Okay, that's the way it's going to go. So without further ado, you guys, love you all. Let's get into it. All right, so as I said, you know what? I got to take that down. I can't stand this thing gets in my way, and it's going to get in the way of my slide. So I'm going to remove it. There we go. So let's get it, you guys. So I dug up some information. Here we go. Reclassification is a hell of a drug. in my Rick James voice. And I might shut my camera off too for a minute and then cut it back on. All right, so let's get it. I love you guys. Who am I and why this matters? Okay, let's get it. I am a brown-skinned American Indian from right here in North America, where the United States is established. I'm not a member of a federally recognized tribe, and I don't need to be to know who I am, nor will people who are not originally from here, who do not know my family history, will impose their personal opinions and racial classification systems on me or my family. But I'm seeing something dangerous happening in our communities, and it's time for a reality check. If you believe that statement to the core of your being, please throw up fire. I miss you too, Kai. I miss everybody. So, I mean, if you believe that statement, if that statement is true, just give me a 1. Because, I mean, really. Now, we know that in 1828, Noah Webster gave the definition of who an American is, and everybody knows this. Look, you don't get mad at my research. You get mad at the government or state governments observing the facts high copper sunset. You get mad at the former colonial time people. Don't get mad at me. But they set this education out. This is from the Noah Webster 1828 dictionary. American, a noun, an Indian of America, originally applied to the Aboriginals. I don't like the word usage native because they didn't use native back in colonial times. That word didn't exist. So I'm putting the natural damn word there, okay? Because it makes more sense when you use what it was before. The story makes more sense. So in America, in the shit up there. Okay, that's in United States law. That's in United States law. Before there was United States, there were colonial states. All right, let's get it. Now, last I checked, I know my damn colors. That's copper color right there. Give me a 1 if that is the color of copper, those pennies. That's what the color copper is. Other people are trying to make copper another goddamn color other than how black my hair is, okay? Because first of all, black, okay? I'm not a fucking crayon, first of all. My braids are black. Now, how many shades lighter is my skin than those black braids? How many shades lighter is my skin? Those are my real color, light. Guess what? I have copper colored eyes. Look at my eyes. And no, I do not wear contact lenses. I don't know how to put them shits on, and I don't want to because I like to scratch my eyes too much. But those are my. I've them. Our people. Introduced by Christopher Columbus in 1492, believing he had reached the East Indies in Asia. So when we're saying East Indies, we're talking about a lot of the owners of the different 7-Elevens who happen to be a beautiful group of people to me. They're always very friendly and nice to me. Other people have issues with them, but I know our people are very fucking rude. So East Indians are by nature are very humble people. At least here to me, where I'm around, I've never been treated bad by an East Indian, for real. Columbus referred to the indigenous people he encountered as Indios, the Spanish word for Indians. Despite the geographic era, Being quickly recognized, the term Indian persisted in European and later American usage for centuries. All right? Shift toward Indian American. In the 1960s and 1970s, amid the civil rights movement and a growing push for Indian American current usage preferences, both Indian American and American Indian, are still used today, and preferences vary. Some individuals and tribes prefer American Indian, especially in legal and governmental contexts, where the term is still widely used in treaties and federal law. Others favor Indian American for its broader inclusivity and avoidance of colonial mislabeling. Increasingly, many indigenous people prefer to be identified by their specific tribe affiliation, example, the Navajo, the Lakota, the Cherokee, rather than pan-ethnic terms. And that's true. Now, also, I need to take my camera off for this because you have to understand. Let me just take this down for 1 second. What you have to understand, and people really need to understand this. I know a lot of you do because I've been teaching since 2019. When we say America, we don't just mean where United States sit, mainland. America is North, Central, South America, including Canada. In if you're including North, Central, and South America, where colonists put these fucking imaginary border lines. They weren't there before. We didn't have border lines. They were put there. It's called men in police uniforms with guns, border lines, whatever. Okay, so, but for the sake of my newspaper, my strong focus are the Indians on the mainland here, on the mainland, North America. But we do know that there's South American Indians, Central Canada, really, that don't look like us, but they are indigenous to the Americas. And that's a fact. And we do acknowledge that a lot of our Indians have more of their European features than they do our features. And that's a fact. A fact. Man, I got Indians in my family that look totally white European, and they're not. On their birth certificate, it say Negro. Seriously. My aunt is 108 years old, and she will cuss you out if you try to tell her she ain't Indian. For real, honey. But anyway, like the add to the stage. Why is my thing not going? Oh, there it is. Okay. All right, you guys, here we go. So we finished that one. Census treatment of American Indians. Before 1924. Oh, wow. Am I breaking up now, you guys? Okay, I seem to have problems here. Am I breaking up now? Give me a 1. Mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check. Do I sound okay? Yellowhammer, am I okay now? Oh, good. Thank you so much, honey. All right. Before 1924, most were 1924 Indian Citizenship Act. The law granted U.S. citizenship to all Indians born in the United States. However, even after this, census enumerators often continued to classify people as Indian only if they lived on reservations or were visibly recognized as tribal members. Many Indian families living in towns, farming communities, or outside reservations were instead recorded as colored or Negro. Y'all, you got to understand this and you got to know who they talking about. Really, you got to understand. I'm going to read that again. I have to. However, after this, census enumerators often continue to classify people as Indian only if the census instructions, enumerators were told to mark in IN for Indian only if the person was considered full-blooded and living in tribal conditions. If someone had mixed ancestry or lived outside a reservation, they were often classified as colored or Negro. This practice erased Indian identity in official records and forced many into categories that didn't reflect their heritage. We're going to keep going. Y'all hear that? This practice erased Indian history in official records and forced many into categories that didn't reflect their heritage. Yo, is that plain and simple? Boom, boom, boom. Federal power. In 1830, unless you lived on a reservation or were enrolled in one of the civilized tribes, the U.S. government did not recognize you as an Indian. Yes, Pookie, Ray Ray, and Little Man. That means you. It is true that the U.S. history racial classification systems were imposed by law and policy. American Indian groups and mixed heritage communities were reclassified over time in census or legal records. These classifications were often arbitrary and used to enforce segregation or deny rights. For example, one-drop rules and rigid census categories erased complex identities. Back in the yes. Many indigenous peoples across the Americas, including the region now known as the United States, had dark skin tones and features that European colonizers later associated with African ancestry. This led to widespread racial misclassification, erasure of tribal identities, and confusion about lineage. North America, U.S. region, tribes in the Mississippi Valley, Florida, and the Carolinas had members with dark skin and features that led to racial reclassification, especially during the 18th and 19th centuries when census and legal systems collapsed tribal distinctions into black or colored. Let's go. Dark people in America. Oh, dark and confused with Africans by European observers. Oh no, I'm in and out. I don't know what the hell is going on. All right. Maybe I do a reboot or something. Hang on. This sucks. I don't understand. Let me see. All right, I got that. Okay, is this better, y'all? 1 2 1 2. Which one sounds better? 2 2 2 2. 1 1 1 1. Which one sounds better, you guys? Do I sound better now? Yeah, I got to respond a little faster. Same. It still sounds choppy. Oh my God. 1 2 1 2. How about that? That's probably worse, right? I don't like how this is sounding. 1 2 1 2. Hey Willie, do this sound better? 1 2 1 2 1 2. Hello, 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 hello. 1 1 1 1 1. It's been a while since I've been on. Okay, DL Warren says it sounds okay. It doesn't sound crazy. All right, thank you. Oh God, I just can't do good today. They messing with me. Maybe I gotta need to do a whole upgrade. All right. Anyway, before European contact, European islands in go view and observers Negro, all these different races. Central and South America, OMEX, often depicted with broad noses and full lips. Some scholars argue their features resemble West African traits, though they were indigenous to Mesoamerica. Amazonian tribes. Many had dark skin and tightly coiled hair, living in dense forest regions with little contact until much later. Southeastern North America, like the Yamasee, the Guale, the Appalachee, and others. Gulf Coast tribes with darker pigmentation and features that colonists often label Negro or mulatto, especially when resisting assimilation. Yo, I'm reading to you what happened to our people because people need to understand. Yes, Africans do resemble us, but we're very different. We are different. We're not the same people. Just like Chinese people don't like to be called Japanese. Just like Irish people don't like to be called Italians. And oh yeah, I'm gonna call up Xfinity. They got me streaming and everything, but it's all good. I'll get this fixed tomorrow. So now we got that done. So dark-skinned indigenous peoples of the Americas before European contact, we did that. Black Americans today are U.S. citizens. Their nationality is American. Even if some ancestors were Indian and later reclassified, that does not change their current legal status. They cannot be deported. Deportation applies only to non-citizens. If someone has indigenous ancestry, they may also have tribal citizenship, but that coexists with U.S. citizenship. It does not replace it. The lie. You can just remove your citizenship and be free. People tell you this. Don't believe this shit. I'm telling y'all. Citizenship and deportation. Let's break down citizenship for Black indigenous peoples in the United States. Black indigenous peoples, North America, today are U.S. citizens. Okay? The truth. What happens if you renounce citizenship? You must do it formally, okay? Outside the U.S. states before a consular office. Not inside it. You got to do it outside the United States, because when your ass go out, Trump ain't letting your ass back in. So go ahead on and denounce your damn citizenship, but do it outside. You got to do it outside the United States before a consular office. And when you do, your monkey ass can't come back, because guess what? Mr. Trump ain't letting your ass back. Yeah, I told you I was using my potty mouth today, because this is how we have fun in our community. If you stay in the U.S. without legal status, you are now subject to deportation, even if you were born here. And here's the kicker. You can't be deported anywhere because you're stateless. That or is like bad and having convicted felons against them. So now they want to take a pretty little princess like me and you and drag you to live with them and their little crusty feet off the land, just because they don't qualify for food stamps no more, because they removed their citizenship. Bye. Key responsibilities. Go ahead, get your laugh on. Key responsibilities of a consular's office. A consular officer is a government official stationed at a consulate who assists with diplomatic and administrative duties related to their home country's citizens and interests abroad. Here's what they typically do. Visa and immigration services. Review and process visa applications for travel, work, or immigration. Interview applicants and assess eligibility based on laws and policies. Assistance to citizens abroad. Help citizens who are arrested, hospitalized, or face emergencies overseas. Issue passports, birth certificates, and other official documents. Protection of protecting initiatives. Material acts, child custody, deaths, and estate issues. So this is the boom booms you got to see outside of the state if you're looking to renounce your citizenship. But I'll be damn, I'm Indian. This is my land. I'm staying on that. I don't think that there's another country in the world better than mine. So I'll be staying here. I'll be a little old ass rotten lady smoking a cigarette and still laughing at your ass. Where consular offices work. Consular offices are posted at embassies or consulates around the world, while embassies are in capital cities and handle broader diplomatic relations. Consulates are often in major cities and focus on citizen services and visas. History, why some of us were reclassified. Many dark-skinned indigenous people were reclassified as black or Negro by colonizers and census takers. That doesn't erase your indigenous roots, but it does mean we were cut off from tribal recognition. Okay? Understand that. That's why many it does mean we were tribal recognition because we were the ones who stayed and said, nah, man, we ain't going to Oklahoma. So that's what happened. You got labeled as either black or Negro when you were Indian in the area. That's why many of us are indigenous by blood and land, but not on paper. And this is why the freedmen on the roads couldn't be identified by blood because their asses are all full bloods. And they weren't allowed to have blood quantum on the damn roads. That's because somebody else established and created those tribes, just like you can do now. The reality, you can be indigenous and still be a U.S. citizen. Tribal citizenship is not required to know who you are. U.S. citizenship does not erase your identity. It protects your rights. You can be indigenous, sovereign in spirit, and still use your legal status to protect your freedom. Warning, don't let clowns lead you off a cliff. People pushing state are not lawyers, not know who you are and know the law. I'm not here to tell you who to be. I'm here to make sure you don't get played. You can't be proud, indigenous, and powerful without living up your legal protection, without giving up your legal protection. Stay grounded, stay smart, and stay free. Let's keep going, y'all. I ain't gonna stop. Now, let me tell you a little bit about my state, and I don't represent Connecticut at all, ever, and never will have, never did on my channel. Understand that. Y'all know anything I do is either in South Carolina, Florida, North Carolina, not in Connecticut. But I'm going to read you some shit that I found. The black governors and tribe chiefs were one and the same people. Before 1868, black people were denied federal citizenship. Yet they governed, they led communities, and held authority. Black of leadership that had long existed outside the recognition of Washington. Federal denial versus local sovereignty. Dred Scott versus Sanford in 1857 ruled that black people were not U.S. citizens and had no standing in federal court. But this applied to federal citizenship, not to local, tribal, or community governance. Understand that. This applied to federal citizenship, not the local, tribal, or community governance. Black communities in free states like Connecticut continue to elect their own leaders, hold court, and govern themselves. Do you understand that clearly? Facts. The first colored senator and representatives. These men were the first really recognized of these are the first federally recognized black legislators, but they did not emerge from nowhere. They stood on the shoulders of those earlier leaders, the governors, chiefs, and community leaders who had already proven that black governance was real, resilient, and rooted in history. One of the most painful truths in American history, the deliberate erasure and reclassification of indigenous identity, especially for those with dark skin. Let's break it down clearly and truthfully, because reclassification is a hell of a drug. Why were they reclassified as black instead of Indian? Federal policy of racial simplification. The U.S. government and census takers use binary racial categories, white and black, to simplify population control. Anyone with dark skin, for Number 2, punishment for refusing removal. Tribes that refuse to relocate to Oklahoma under the Indian Removal Act in 1830 were punished by being stripped of tribal status. That's what happened. So then you just became this black farmer with your family on it. But you wasn't recognized, little Indian guy. That's what they did to our ancestors. Their lands were seized and their people were reclassified as freedmen, black farmers, or free persons of color. Think about that shit, y'all. I'm going to read it one more time, and you better understand it, because we're going, at the end of this slide, we're going to get to them black farmers. Their lands were seized and their people were reclassified as freedmen, black farmers, or free persons of color. This was a way to erase sovereignty and deny take tribal affiliation. Census takers often ignore tribal affiliation and classify people by skin tone. If someone looked black, they were marked as Negro, even if their records, community, and ancestry said Indian. This happened to Cherokee, Pequot, Lenape, and many Algonquin speaking people. Facts. Listen, y'all, I'm not lying. This is facts. Political suppression of mixed identity. Leaders like Hiram Revels and Joshua Walls may have had indigenous ancestry, but the government only allowed them to be recognized as black. Why? Because indigenous identity came with land rights, treaty protections, and sovereignty, and the government didn't want to honor that. So they were labeled black farmers or freedmen to strip away. Buried by federal policy. Ah, buried by federal policy. Their real identity was erased to fit the racial categories of the time. Their sovereignty was denied, even as they led communities and held office. I'm talking about them black governors down here too. Their land and legacy were stolen, and their descendants were told they were just black. The act forced many Indian nations like Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Seminole, the 5 civilized tribes, to relocate west of the Mississippi, primarily to what became Oklahoma. The federal government created treaties and rolls like the Dawes Rolls later on to track tribal membership. These rolls became the basis for federal recognition and land allotments. Who was left out? Communities were reclassified as colored or black by state laws were excluded from tribal rolls. This erased their indigenous identity in official records. Resistance and survival. Some indigenous communities refused removal, stayed in their homelands, and blended into local populations. Over time, census takers often labeled them free colored or black, even if they identified as Indian. Loss of recognition. This were the consequences when they didn't go to Oklahoma. Because they weren't on rolls, these communities lost federal acknowledgement as tribes. Legal erasure. Being classified as black or colored meant they were treated as African American under law, even if they had no African ancestry. Modern impact. Descendants today often struggle to reclaim indigenous identity because courts and the federal government rely on those old rolls and treaties as proof of tribal citizenship. Americans are South Carolina, early colonial period. You know what? Let me take a 2-second, maybe a 30-second break to drink some water, you guys, and just think about it. Because now I think we're going to make it through these slides before my hour and a half is up. So let me pause and take a little small break. I'll be right back. System sounds like really crazy, but that's okay. I'm gonna do a whole reboot so that the next time I come on, it'll be back clear again. I can't help what's going on with it. I could check my settings. Let me see. Resolution, audio, focus right. Yeah, that's focus right. That's echo balance. Automatically adjust mic. Hmm. 1 2 1 2. It's showing me that I'm sounding all right. So maybe I just need to do a whole reboot. I don't. I guess because when you start telling the truth, they start messing with your channel. But that's all good. I'm gonna do a whole reboot. Mic check. Should I keep going? Mic check. Mic check. I on for at least 3 months. Right now. Please, please, please. Somebody give me a 1. Can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me? Damn. Why it took so long for y'all to respond? Okay, let's get it. So I know you read this. At least I have the slides up here where you guys could read along with me. Tomorrow I'll do a whole reboot on this system, or before I go to bed. Okay, in the early colonial period, this is now I'm just focusing on South Carolina first because this is where my family originally came from. Way up in York. They started there and moved their way down, but they were not nowhere near Charleston. But anyway, early colonial period. In the early colonial period, Charleston, Charlestown, later Charleston, was the main foothold of English colonizers in South Carolina. And colonizers only gradually expanded inland through conflict, alliances, and displacement of Indian nations. Charlestown, founded in 1670, it became the capital and the primary English settlement. Indigenous control. Outside Charleston, most of the land was indeed held by Indian nations, including the Catawba, Cherokee, Yamasee, and others. Colonial expansion. For decades, English colonists were confined to the coastal low country. Inland areas remained indigenous territory until later wars and treaties forced Indian displacement. Yamasee War, 1715 to 1717. A major indigenous uprising against English colonists. It nearly destroyed South Carolina and showed how much power Indian nations still held outside Charleston. Cherokee and Catawba Charleston was the hub for trade, politics, and the slave trade, but the colony's reach beyond the city was limited for decades. Early South Carolina, the 16 to 1700s, indigenous labor in colonial Charleston, indigenous labor. Indigenous people in South Carolina were not only living in their own territories, but also working in Charleston. during the colonial period. Domestic and urban work. Indian men and women were employed in households, docks, and small trades in Charlestown. Colonists often relied on Indian labor for everyday tasks, indenture, and enslavement. Some indigenous people were forced into servitude or outright slavery. The Carolinas were heavily involved in the Indian trade in the late 16 and early 1700s, exporting thousands of Indians captives to the Caribbean. Alliances in trade. Certain Indian groups allied with colonists and worked on even as the city became a hub for African slavery. Indians did work in Charleston for colonizers at the same time Africans were being brought in. In fact, South Carolina was unique in that it ran two overlapping slave trades, one involving Africans through Charleston and the other involving indigenous captives taken from wars with local tribes. Indian slave trade in the Carolina is often overlooked compared to the African slave trade. Historical records show that many Indian captives from South Carolina, Yamasee, Tuscarora Creek, and others were exported through Charleston into the wider Atlantic world. Where the South Carolina Indians were exported, Barbados, one of the primary destinations. Indian captives were sold into plantation labor alongside Africans. Were sent here. Bermuda had mixed labor force of Africans, American Indians, and indentured Europeans. Other Caribbean islands, records mention Antigua, St. Kitts, and the Bahamas as destinations. The Bahamas were also used as redistribution point for captives. Between the 1600s and early 1700s, thousands of American Indians were enslaved in the Carolinas. Many were exported to the Caribbean while others were kept in Charleston or sold into household and plantations locally. This trade was so large that historians estimate more American Indians were exported from Charleston in the late 1600s than Africans were imported during the same time period. Y'all listening? I'm going to read it again. This trade was so large that historians estimated more American Indians were exported from Charleston 1800. Charleston was the hub, but the captives didn't stay there. They were shipped out to Barbados, Jamaica, Bermuda, and other Caribbean islands, where they were absorbed into the plantation economies. This is why descendants of American Indian peoples from the Carolinas can oftentimes be traced into Caribbean populations today. The Great Migration, 1910 to 1930s, is usually associated with American Indians leaving the South for northern cities like New York, Boston, and New Haven. American Indians also participated in the broader movement seeking refuge from the racial violence and better opportunities in northern industrial centers. Some South Carolina Indian families moved into urban Indian enclaves in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New York, where they joined existing indigenous communities. The American Indians' presence in South Carolina. Tribes such as the Catawba, Petey, and others maintained communities into the 20th century. Despite centuries of colonization, they continued farming and living in rural areas. Discrimination and violence. Indian families often face hostility from white neighbors and local authorities. Oral histories describe intimidation, arson, and forced displacement, though these events were rarely recorded in official state documents. Erasure in census and legal documents. Many American Indians in South Carolina were classified as colored or black in official records, which obscures their identity in migration statistics. Local suppression. Incidents of violence against Indian families were often not prosecuted or formally recorded, leaving oral tradition as the main source of evidence. Overlap with African migrant data. Because American Indians were often lumped into colored categories, their northward migration is hidden with recognized as Indian by the government. Early 1900s Jim Crow era, colored was the dominant term in census record, legal documents, and everyday language. American Indians in South Carolina and elsewhere were frequently classified as colored, and often official records erasing their tribal identity. Late 1900s, Negro was widely used until the Civil Rights era. Black became the preferred term in the 1960s and 70s. 1980s onward. Now, African American gained popularity as a cultural and political identity term, emphasizing heritage and connection to Africa. Oh, messy Jesse. Why African American didn't exist then? The U.S. government and society weren't interested in documenting ancestry, only in enforcing racial categories. Many indigenous families in South Carolina were lumped into colored or black, even if they had no African ancestry. The term African American was coined much later to reclaim identity and heritage, but it wasn't used in the 1920s. The What we see in records is the government's racial classification system, which often erased indigenous identity by lumping Indians into color. South Carolina tribes, the Catawba, Petey, Waccamaw, and other Indian communities lived in South Carolina into the 20th century. That's the 1900s. Many were classified as colored in census records, which obscured their identity. Violence and displacement, 1920s and 1930s. Indian families in the Carolinas faced racial hostility, land loss, and sometimes outright violence. Oral histories describe intimidation, arson, and forced removal. Economic pressure in the 1940s through the 70s. Sharecropping collapsed and agriculture decline pushed Indian families off their land. Jim Crow segregation laws denied the recognition as Indian, forcing them into the colored category, which limits rights and opportunities. Migration north. Many Indian families moved to Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, and New Haven, leaving the South in great migration. Northern cities offered industrial jobs. migration north is hidden inside African American immigration statistics. Oral tradition. Much of this history survives in family stories and tribal archives rather than government records. Overlap with civil rights struggles. Indian migrants often joined Black communities in northern cities, blending histories and displacement and resistance. Who were the Black loyalists? Oh, we going through this, y'all. I don't know how many we got left. During the American Revolutionary War, 1775 to 1783, thousands of enslaved Africans were promised freedom by the British if they escaped their patriot enslavers and joined the British cause. These individuals became known as Black loyalists, not only because they supported the British, but because they were loyal to the promise of liberty. What happened after the war? After the British lost the war, they evacuated thousands of Black loyalists from the U.S. to places like Nova Scotia, Canada, Sierra Leone, West Africa, the Caribbean, especially Jamaica and the Bahamas. Many of these individuals brought refugees, even as those U.S. narrative. The archives in Canada, UK, and Caribbean nations contain rich documentation of Black loyalist communities, their struggles, and their contributions. Their story shows freedom, identity, and resistance were negotiated across borders, not just within the U.S. The United States as a constitutional nation state didn't formally exist until 1787. With the ratification of the U.S. Constitution, before that, the land we now call the United States was a patchwork of British colonies. And during the Revolutionary War, it was referred to as the 13 colonies or the continental states. So when we talk about Black loyalists being evacuated from the U.S., it's shorthand for from the territory that would become the United States. Why this detail is so important? Historical accuracy. It reminds us that the U.S. was not yet a unified nation during the Revolutionary War. It was still fighting to become one. Legal implications. The promise made by the British to Black loyalists were made under British colonial emerging American nation that sought to preserve it. Entangled identities, indigenous sovereignty, and African misclassification in colonial South Carolina. Introduction. The colonial history of South Carolina is often framed through the lens of African slavery and European settlement. Yet this narrative overlooks the critical role of indigenous nations and the frequent misclassification of Native people as Africans. This is an essay, y'all, and it explored how indigenous sovereignty shaped the colonial dynamics, how physical similarities between Africans and Native Americans led to widespread misidentification, and how these distortions continue to impact historical memory. Indigenous sovereignty in the Carolinas. Prior to and during the Revolutionary War, South Carolina was home to powerful indigenous nations such as the Catawba, Yamasee, and Cherokee. These groups actively negotiated, resisted, and shaped colonial expansion. Land was not freely available to settlers. It was contested, defended, and land. Due to the physical similarities and colonial biases, many indigenous people were recorded as Negro or African in census data, legal document, and slave manifest. This misclassification erased Indian identities and contributed to the myth of mass African importation into regions where indigenous populations were dominant and resistant. The failure to distinguish between indigenous and African individuals had led to genealogical confusion and cultural erasure. Racial integrity laws. In states like Virginia, officials like Walter Plecker aggressively reclassified American Indians as colored or Negro, erasing tribal identities and enforcing segregation. Legal and social consequences. Being labeled Negro rather than Indian could affect access to land allotments, tribal benefits, or recognition, legal status, individual the least. I don't need to read that no more. That's basically the same thing. What was the result of unrecognized Indians? Many non-recognized Indian communities in the Southeast, including South Carolina, remained on their ancestral lands and became farmers, especially during and after the 19th century. These groups often avoided forced removal to Oklahoma during the Trail of Tears era by either blending into local population, often being misclassified as free persons or color or mulatto, living in remote or rural areas where census takers and officials overlooked them, adopting farming and labor roles that allowed them to survive economically while maintaining cultural continuity. Now, what was the result of the unrecognized? Okay, Sumter tribes of Shira Indians. This is Sumter, South Carolina. Descendants of the Sioux-speaking Chirac people who remained in Sumter, many became small-scale farmers and laborers, maintaining tribal identity despite lack of federal recognition. Native but made in North Carolina, many Lumbee and Petee Indians lived in South Carolina and remained on their lands as tenant farmers and landowners. Farming as survival and resistance. Farming allowed these communities to retain land, avoid removal, and preserve family structures. Lesson 1. Introduction. The truth about citizenship, sovereignty, and being indigenous in America. I'm a brown-skinned American Indian right here in North America, the United States. I am not a member of a federally recognized tribe, and I don't need to be to know who I am. And guess what, y'all? We did it. I can't believe it because now this gives me time to fix my system. Tomorrow. I have to do a reboot. I never shut my computer off. Hi, Dulcie, baby. How you doing, sweetheart? Hey, y'all. So I went through those slides. What I'm going to do is consolidate it all together in my newspaper for January 1st, 2026. The newspapers will start going back out then. I have help now, my niece, to upload all the I'm going to do a reboot and have Xfinity do a whatever you call it, hit the system again because they did do an upgrade this week. I'm so sorry that this is doing this, but I have not been on my main computer studio for at least 3 months, and I just left the damn computer running. So it's probably need some updates and things of that nature, and I'll get this done through Xfinity. I'll have them come out. Hey, especially nevers. But I wanted to quickly go through those slides and, give people a chance. I think if I keep my segments at an hour, hour and a half, people will be more apt to watching them. So I'm going to get out of here. I love you guys. That's what I have today. And I'm going to sit out this weekend and map out the days that I'm going to come live. So, the days that I'm gonna start coming live back an hour and a half again. It will be, you know, more definitely on the weekends, but I'm trying to incorporate the weekdays. Like when I get off of work, I'm like really drained when I get off of work. So I'm going to figure out how I'm going to do it. Maybe after I get off. And plus, I don't like to go to live to late where keep it in sequence so I don't interfere. Hey, peace to you too, y'all. I love y'all. So I'm gonna get out of here, you guys. I think that's enough for now. We did an hour and a half, and I'm gonna keep it like that, and I feel comfortable. So I'll be back probably maybe tomorrow. I'll let you know. And when I do come on after the upboot and Xfinity fixing my internet service, I could tell you what days I'm going to be live. It'll automatically be on my our website. Okay, so I love y'all, and I'm truly going to get out of here today. I hope you enjoyed today's segment. Sit back. I love you too, sweetie. Sit back, rewatch it again. Sit back with some coffee and just think about it. These are really decent conversations that we need to have, and you need to sit back, drink some tea, watch it with your nanas, your great uncles. I mean, they have stories for you, and don't have a veteran, uncle that's a veteran, or yeah, uncle or a relative that's a damn veteran. He gonna have his liquor bottle. He gonna tell you all the truth. Okay, he gonna tell you he the Indian. He's it. Hey, uncle, right? And I am so out of here for the day. May the good high powers bless you all.